Hello? Yes. Okay. Miriam, thank you very much for this film. I don't know what to say. You said this has been 6 years in the making. Yeah? Um, there's a lot of names here. There's Hasina, there is Lena, there's Ella, there's Samina. So, so you see this shadow on the wall, and then you find Lena. Lena leads you to Samina. Can we start at the beginning? Yeah?
Yeah, so for me it was a shadow on the wall that I saw in Kolkata, and it said missing, and every 8 minutes. And I guess every filmmaker has a personal connection with shadows, or maybe shadows are something that's universal in the fact that they're hiding something and revealing something. But this shadow I kept seeing this image in quite a few places in Kolkata, and then when I came back to Bombay, I saw it on a few walls. And again in Bangalore, I spotted it in a few walls, and I felt like I needed to know more, and it made me curious to meet Lena. I found it very interesting that she grew up overlooking Sonagachi, and there were certain sights and sounds that stayed with her. I'm also fascinated by the work of Banksy and the fact that he uses public art and public spaces rather than, say, a curated space to kind of grab the audience into an issue. So I found it fascinating that that was her starting point, and she was putting up these shadows and trying to begin this conversation. And I think while beginning to film, when I just began filming with her, I would just see her at her work, and she worked in the Sundarban. So in fact, some of the scenes you see where that house where we visit, where there's a missing girl who has been re-trafficked, that was one of the earlier scenes. And then midway through, we stumbled on Samina's case, where she came back and she was very clear. She's one of the rare cases that she wanted to take her traffickers to court. And it was very chilling to me that her traffickers were her neighbor, that she grew up with this child. And after that, I think the camera just became the sort of witness to her decision to go ahead with a legal case. And then there were many twists and turns, and Hasina and Ella were later additions to the film, because I actually found it very interesting that Hasina is one of the few people who've managed to get these legal convictions, which are really rare. And the fact that she has this sort of collaborative model, and I love the fact that Ella, being a survivor, has chosen to continue to work in the field and work with other survivors. So then I started intercutting their two stories by spending time with both. So.
Yeah, for me, I think, there are these numbers, Ella, along with another 400 girls, and there are 72,000 cases that Hasina has fought, and the numbers that you come up with later. But through all this, finding all the women coming together. So how did you make that happen? Was it the women who drove the whole narrative, or was it the Samina's case?
So 3 years into filming, Samina realized that there's no conviction at hand. This is never going to end. And as a filmmaker, I try not to say things on behalf of other people. I like to spend time with them and let them have the space to tell their own story, and in a nuanced way. So Samina has a very expressive face, even more than what she says. It's in the way she says things and all of that. So 3 years after filming, she came and she sent me a letter actually saying that I want to share my story, but because I don't know whether this verdict will come out, and then if I put out my face in the story, it may affect the verdict. And for me, the verdict is paramount. So that was a point where I felt like, it's literally you lose the language of how you're telling the story, and do I continue to tell the story or do I abandon it? And that's when I started giving more prominence to this sort of, it's not just Samina fighting this case. There were all these women nudging her along. And I started opening my eyes to this energy, which until then I was sort of obsessed with Samina and her case. And she was this very frail figure taking on this huge system. And it was a very chilling process for us as well, because we began to realize that, the traffickers is not some bad guy out there, but he is in your local police guy. He is in the person who is fudged the FIR. He is in the NGO person who we are coordinating with, who is actually turned tables. And so the fact that she's kind of taking on the system, she cannot do it alone. And the fact that she kind of told me I can't show her face, then I started focusing on this sort of energy and the other women who were collaborating with her and making it happen for her. So that's how
Yeah. What was very touching actually was her parents with her every time that she's at court. I mean, that silent presence, right? Very strong, very powerful. Was it a deliberate plan to kind of include them in the frame every time?
So it's interesting you use the word parents, because we've not even named them as parents. So when you're doing a criminal case, we were literally navigating a legal minefield where not only do we have the laws to follow in terms of survivor representation, we can't show the accused so long as the case is in court. We can't show the actual court proceedings because, so we filmed just outside the court and it's in bits and snatches and fragments. And similarly, we've never named her parents because, there are a lot of things we've left open-ended, and it's for the audience to come to the same conclusions that we did, but we cannot afford to do it because there's too much at stake. So I think for me, this film changed in its tone. When I set out, I thought it would be a very strident investigative film, but that's not my style anyway. But as I began filming, I realized, no, it has to be a very, not pointing fingers at anybody, but letting people speak, and hopefully the audience are going to, join all the dots and figure it out.
Yeah, even in the way you kind of deal with Shakti. Yeah, exactly. Once he turns villain, right?
Yes. I mean, we have much more incriminating material against him, but we chose not to put it in the film because then it's a minefield. It was more that, and he's not a bad guy. He is someone who actually rescued Samina from the brothel, and yet there's this whole side where he's clearly earning money from both parties. So at the end of the day, it is a business, and it's like there's money trading hands. And I think, people look at the film and they wonder if it's an NGO film, and I find that very upsetting because I think it's a very hard look at also NGOs and the fact that, there's a lot to be looking inward if we really need to get survivors.
Maybe now we kind of shift to the audience. Otherwise, I'll just keep asking you all the questions. Any questions there? So you will have to come to this mic. I'm sorry, I should have announced this earlier. All those who have questions will have to kind of come closer to the stage so that one can have the question soon enough. Yeah, okay, you can come here and. Anyone else with questions, please come ahead. Yeah, come ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. I think it's working. It's just. So, thank you very much. It was a very striking revelatory film. I had a question that, and I want to know whether that matched with your experiences. This goes a little bit beyond what you said, that there is all this power of women who have come and, come in aid, so wanting to fight a cause. But in your experience, there men who were equally felt equally passionately about it, or it's really all for women by women?
No, I think there were definitely both. Like I said, even Shakti is not a black character. He's a grey character. So
No, that for sure.
yeah.
But I just meant more, in the sort of at the level of Leena and, that level of people.
So definitely, I mean, I think the person who comes to mind is Satyarthi, right, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for his work in.
Yeah, no, I wanted to know from your experiences.
He's a lawyer.
He's a
Okay.
lawyer. Yeah.
So the lawyer also, I'm not going to say much, but
Looked also grey.
Yes,
Lawyer
he's a
also
very
looked
grey
grey
character.
to
In
me.
fact, something happened at the end of the film which I didn't even include in the film. He is also a grey character. So I can't say that he's fully black. And they've had to change the lawyer, in fact, after
Because that is the impression I got, that he's a grey character. And
He is
that's
a grey
what
character.
actually why I asked this question.
Yes, absolutely.
That
He's
is
a very
this the
grey
exception,
character.
That is it really for women and by women?
Yeah.
If that is so, I must
I would say
still
that
feel a
the
bit
other
sorry.
gentleman you see, Prabir, though, he is someone who is very genuine. Also, there's someone who's hardly been named, but Leena relocated to Bombay at some point, and you're seeing this gentleman in a blue shirt. He's literally gone back and forth to court with Samina and done all the paperwork and all of that. So there are a lot of silent warriors. I don't think that.
No, thanks
yeah.
for this input.
Those with questions, please come ahead so that we don't waste too much time waiting for.
Firstly, thank you so much. I was almost into tears at the end of the documentary. It's great that you're using art as one of the forms to bring out awareness. My question to you is, so when you walk, rescue and walk with the girls, what is their plight and what does it take to get them back to normalcy if you do that?
So I'm not the person in the film. I'm the filmmaker who shot the artist. But I mean, from what I've seen, that once something like this happens, your life changes. It takes a lot to go past it. I don't think you'll ever be the same again. I think what was most haunting for me was this issue of re-trafficking, that, someone you think you're rescuing and you're bringing out from some kind of hell, and the fact that society is so harsh and they are not able to find their roots, that they literally, so many cases of them returning to maybe what almost seems like a better option because of like the kind of hypocrisy that we have towards someone who is a survivor. So I don't know what normalcy is, but I love the story of Ella. I think that Ella is a wonderful person who does turn around the narrative. She's so full of life. And, even in the small details that she gives, like, you need to start from small things to build up to the bigger things. I love the other girl who fills her books. It's not just the artist on the walls. I find art like a big therapy even to these young girls, where they're like using it as a diary almost. So yeah, I think it's in the small moments. I don't think there's like a big thing. But having said that, we have the anti-trafficking bill in Parliament. There are a lot of these issues that need to be addressed, which are really soft issues. It's not about we need softer approaches to becoming a more accepting society, I think. And I think that is what you sense in the film. I love Hasina for that, she actually trains the armies of these countries. She's with like the strongest, most, whatever, macho men of our country, but she has a certain strength of position, and she's able to bring those soft skill sets into training them and sensitizing them even to these cases, because they are at the borders. We always are talking about Pakistan as like this sort of enemy nearby, but we have a huge porous border where you see people crossing to sell potatoes and onions, and it's the same way that people are getting trafficked. And these are people at the borders who can actually play a huge role. And I find that the way Hasina kind of has created this sort of intervention, it's the first signs of hope. And maybe if it's stemmed at that very point where someone is being duped and brought to this side, maybe they have a much faster chance of being reintegrated than, when they're going to, like Samina, after 1 year, escaping from a brothel and trying to reclaim her life.
If I may just add on, and I'm going to be saying this first time in a public forum, I can relate partially to it because I have been a victim of cyber crime. My pictures were leaked by a person who I was in relationship with. This was long ago, and it scarred me for life, so much so that I am still single. So, it's just very heartening and great work. Thank you so much. If you could do something to bring back their confidence once they are rescued, in those lines, if there can be some work done, and if I can contribute in any way, I'll be glad. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very brave of you to speak up. And really, trafficking too has moved into the digital space more and more. Both these women are tackling digital trafficking, which is even more rampant because it's not that dramatic thing of you have to lower someone or pull them away. You can literally groom someone on the net and get them to walk into your home. And so thank you so much. I will keep in touch with you.
I just want to say thank you first for making something so striking like this. There was also a point in time in the film where I got teary. My question stems from that emotion that I felt. So when you're making a film like this, there might be a lot of emotional turmoil that goes on in your mind. How do you navigate the balance between that emotional sort of underpinning and the fact-based side of the film? How much do you make it a fact-based film, and how much do you make it an emotionally charged film? That's my question.
That's a really tough question. For me, it's very important that people feel my film. So even though documentaries are like, and especially something like child sex trafficking, you think it has to be very sort of investigative or hard-hitting. Whereas I think there's a greater truth in when you sense who the person is and the smaller details of which they're sharing. So for me, it's very important that the audience feels like I feel I know each of them. There are, like this girl who filled up the book, I felt like if I had to adopt a girl, that would be the girl I adopt. I felt that strongly about her. So for me, it's important that my audience senses that. So there has to be the heart. But at the same time, what I liked about Leena is she is from Calcutta, but from the Marwari community, and in a bit of an outcast in that sense because she's an artist and not the. But I still see the brain of that, the money crunching thing in terms of how she translates trafficking to a business, and the fact that as a girl changes hands, her value, the price tag on her keeps escalating to this huge sort of a nexus. So I think I saw that connection where it can be both mind and heart, and it needed to be both because it's not enough that people are teary-eyed. There is also the fact that she raises that each of us in our silence is complicit, and that it is something that involves all of us because it's our civil institutions that have been sort of infiltrated, and you have people in uniform who are traffickers. So it does concern all of us, and if there's an anti-trafficking bill in Parliament, these are the things that need to be examined. So it's not good enough for me that people just feel the film, but yes, I think that's the way that people connect to the issue. So yeah, combination.
Yeah, I think
And
you
for me
achieved.
personally, yeah, it was a very, very, very tough journey. I think if you saw so many names in the credits, it's because there were that many people who supported the film, nudged us through, gave us legal counsel. There are people from NLS in this audience. Luckily, my brother is from law school, so he roped in like people who actually advised me how I can, get this film to a larger audience, navigating the sort of legal implications that it had.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah? Sorry? Yeah, I'll just kind of, while I wait for more questions. So you begin with Sonagachi, Leena Sonagachi, and then you return to Sonagachi. And when you return, there is some kind of agency, right? So, and it's also through the legal lens, right? How did that happen? I mean, how did you make that happen?
So, the Sonagachi return was amazing actually, because we just went back with Leena, who was shooting for her next book, which is about Durga. So she was shooting and we were shooting in those areas, but it was amazing. It was a sort of momentous point in time because Durbar, which is an NGO, a legal NGO for sex workers over there, had just won a court case that they can worship in public, and there was celebration and color and all of that. So I think that's the wonderful part of being a documentary filmmaker. Sometimes you just walk in these moments of history almost, and yeah. So okay. And we knew it would, it kind of brought the film together visually and metaphorically and all of that.
So that's when, was that the end of the 6 years?
We've honestly visited Durga Puja at least 3 times in the 6 years. So I mean, in terms of craftsmanship, there are moments we've taken from all of it, including just before COVID, and that was the last Durga Puja that was celebrated that way. Before, for the next, after that, it was like a really low-key sort of thing. And then we went back again when Leena's doing the touch-up of which was also, again, just before Durga Puja, post-COVID. So.
Okay, so, there's a question. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, Miriam, you had some statistics, 23 per minute, and you mentioned 8 per minute probably when you started. So obviously this movie triggers some thoughts, some feelings. Is there a kind of discussion forum or a place where momentum could be gathered to try and stem? Because if so many folk have been impacted, I'm sure that there would be thoughts on how to possibly stem this.
I think this is a question after my own heart, and we should really call the people of my team, because for me this film is about impact screenings. We really are working towards screenings where people who work in the anti-trafficking space can view the film very differently, and they are in a position to take action. So we have begun those along the northeastern borders. We had a screening with the border security force, and we filmed with them, and you see them in the scene, but they never saw it the same way that we had filmed it. So when they actually saw the point of view of those girls, who they only look at them as illegal sort of immigrants, and they are criminalizing those girls. But when they saw the film, it raised very different questions in terms of the paperwork they can do to actually get these as trafficking cases.
Okay, thank you.
We have Triparna and Alia, the co-producer here. We don't see them on the screen. Neither can all of you see them. Oh, you can see them here. Okay, I guess. Do you want to move? No, we can't. I guess we can't move them. Hi, Triparna. Thank you. Thank you, Alia, for coming and joining us. So the last
Thank
question, I guess, is where we can kind of bring you in, Triparna. You're the impact producer for the film.
Yes. Hello,
And
hello everyone. Sorry, I can't see the audience, but I'm sure that it's a wonderful crowd out there.
yes, so we had, you must have heard the question from the gentleman right just now about, I mean, how do we kind of create discussion platforms for a film like this? So what is the plan? I mean, you have come in as impact producer with the plan. I mean, can you tell us a little bit more? Because the role of an impact producer is kind of fairly new in documentary filmmaking in India, but clearly something that is very, very necessary and very, very important. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role in the film, how you came in, and what the plan for the film is?
Yes. I connected with Miriam at a residency where we were together as filmmakers in Los Angeles, which was part of a Film Independence Global Media Makers program. And I connected to the subject really deeply, like all of you are there at the audience. It is very emotionally touching stories of survivors, and that's how I connected with Miriam. And we started working on the narrative flow and the script together. Also, since majorly the film, the spoken language is Bengali, so I was also helping with the translations and everything. And that is also the time when we started discussing on the impact. Because for a film like this, it is very, very important that there is also an impact side to it. And as all of you are talking there now, like for a film like this, it is not just enough to watch, feel, and just go with that emotion. This gentleman now, like sir, you asked that what can we do. There was another lady before this. She mentioned about her journey, her struggle, and she also mentioned that what can I do. And it is really heartening for us to hear audience ask us this question, that what can we do, because this is what we want as filmmakers, that our films don't stop just as a film, but also raises this question in the mind of the audience, and also raises this desire to do something towards the cause. And I think I'm very happy to hear this question as well. So coming to the impact plan, of course, we have an impact plan, like the screening is also sort of a part of it, so that we can reach the right people, our stakeholders, uh, where we can create these impacts. Like in August, we had a first phase of our impact screenings, where we did screenings with students, also with some of our characters. Like one of our characters, you must have seen Seema Saha in the film. So we went back to her school where she studied, which is a girls' school at Siliguri, and we did a screening for the young girls there. To make them aware of the issues of trafficking, and also to make them aware that one of you has done something, like Seema has taken some steps, and you can also do it. So moving the audience just from being a passive audience to also create some intervention. We also did a screening with the border security force at the Bangladesh border near Siliguri, where we had a discussion about how they can, mitigate the role of middlemen in trafficking. Because one of our major major objective of these impact screening is to discuss this role of middlemen, as we saw in all the stories, that that trafficking is happening either with a job offer or with a marriage offer, and it is happening through the middlemen, through the touts. So that is a very important discussion. Also, to involve our stakeholders like police, like BSF, like young people in the community who can create and take some initiative. And thirdly, which also I think one of you just mentioned, was to accept our survivors. accept them and embrace them so that they don't face the stigma, they don't face the shame. And just to create that safe space for them, that we don't only their identity is not just a survivor of trafficking, but how they can integrate back in the society. So that is also important. So these are the three main impact objectives which we want to go to, which we want to discuss and address in all our screenings at various places. So we have an impact plan where we are doing screenings at places like BIC, at colleges, even at school level, with partners like police forces, SHE teams, BSF, other NGOs. And we have tied up with an NGO called Men Against Violence and Abuse, where we will be showing the film at the various screenings along with them. So this is mainly the impact plan, where we make sure that the film reaches its right audience in a physical space rather than just at film festivals or broadcast, because there we are distant from the audience. It is not a very discussion, one-on-one discussion with the audience. So we want to move beyond the very traditional film screening and also get into screening spaces where we are with the people who are our stakeholders and who are also our community, who can finally bring about the change. So yeah, in short, that is what we are planning to do.
Okay, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, usually you're relieved after your film, but for us it's like our work
Seems
is
like the
just
beginning.
beginning in terms of.
So this fantastic crew, all women crew, Miriam, starting with Sharon, who is the finance head, right? So how did all of you, Sharon says that you and she go back a long way. And Sharon, how has your journey been through this filmmaking, this particular film?
Well, yes, finance, as you say, it's really a tough one. And being the bad cop behind the scenes, it's even worse. Okay, so I had to pull a lot of strings, keep reminding them about budgets. Yes, it was tough, but we pulled it through. And especially when the COVID hit us, we had a bigger budget earlier, but after the COVID, we had to pull a lot of strings, cut down a lot of costs, and had to pull down the budget big time. So that was even worse on my side. But yes, I had to do it because I was being paid for.
No, also I would add to what Sharon said, that I think for me, the end of the film was always Samina getting her verdict. And the fact that Sharon kept saying, listen, y'all are bankrupt now, figure it out now. And that kind of is the reality check that filmmakers need, because somewhere you're so obsessed with this, quest and closure. And somewhere maybe that is the more truthful ending, that there is no ending, that this fight may never have an ending, and that this girl has gone on with it for 7 years, now 8 years, the hearings have still not happened. And that is probably the more honest ending that came probably also because of financial constraints and all of that. But yes, it's the reality checks that we filmmakers need, I think. And the same with Alia, I think, kept the whole production afloat through the pandemic. I think for the first time, because we didn't have to go for international pitching forums and everything went online, we had a chance to pitch at, how many forums was that, Alia?
Yeah, so we pitched, during the lockdown, we pitched at 2 forums, and we were fortunate enough to, have gotten grants, and also through those grants have broadcast tie-ups. And it moved forward in a very positive way for us. So despite the lockdown being, hard and having its constraints, we did manage to pull through, quite graciously, I would say.
So how much is the whole team involved in the creative decision making?
This film, I would say the team was very much involved in the creative decision making, because like I said, the way I was started out telling my film with the a very character-centric approach, and the fact that I had to step back from that approach. In fact, I called up Karan and asked for a new editor because, we were all fed up with trying to work with the constraints that we had, It was like a B-roll, which is not the main shot. We are using that as the main shot to kind of overlay the audio, to continue with the narrative. So we were really tired by the whole process. We had lost that sort of creative radar of, is it working, is it not working? So in fact, I think Karan put me on to Irene, and Irene coming on as the editor, a fresh set of eyes who could say, no, this is the way it can play. And there is a sort of tension even when you're cutting between these multiple characters. So I think that really helped. There were a lot of people kind of putting that creative balance, which I feel, honestly, I lost somewhere. So
6 years can be a long journey, right? Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah? Anything more you'd like to add?
No,
Miriam?
I want to say a really big thank you. This is a beautiful venue. I mean, I'm really jealous coming from Bombay. We do not have a venue like this. Thank you, Vikalp, you all are fantastic. I think, Sunanda, Sushma, Gautam, all of you all, Sandhya, thank you so much. I think I went to MCC today and I heard that the students actually asked for a documentary convention, and I think that is because you all have something like Vikalp and an audience like this in Bangalore who comes to watch and engage with cinema. And today you have youngsters who are wanting documentary, and so thank you so much, fantastic work.
Thank you, Triparna, and thank you, Alia. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Miriam. Yeah. Thank you all.